Coming up on Currently, we get a sneak peek into the upcoming edition of the Boardman Review. Plus, Beth will share some updates on the Sugar Loaf project and more. That's all ahead on Currently. Welcome to Currently, where we discuss some of the top local stories directly from the journalists who are covering them. I'm your host, Christal Frost, and this podcast was recorded on Thursday, September 25th. The Tigers are 85-73 and sadly now second in the AL Central. That said, things may change by the time you're watching or listening. Support for Currently comes from West Shore Bank. When you choose West Shore Bank, you're not just choosing a bank. You are choosing a partner that's committed to the well-being of our community. You can visit them today on 8th Street or at westshorebank.com. Support also comes from the Coin Slot Arcade Bar in Traverse City. It's a chill hangout with a full bar in a low-key setting. My friends are here. Welcome, Beth Milligan, head writer for the Traverse City Ticker. How are you?
Hello, I'm great.
How are we feeling since the Tigers have completely imploded?
Oh, I'm ignoring that part of the world. I'm focusing on the nice weather and trying to ignore that utter collapse.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Very much a collapse. We have a very special guest. We've had your counterpart, your partner in studio, but Chris Loud is here from the Boardman Review. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, other than the Tigers, I'm solid.
The Tigers.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. How are we going to get through that?
I don't know. It's going to be rough.
I'm just focusing on the Lions. I've already shifted directions.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a good idea.
Yeah.
We're just going to go there. Okay. We've solved that problem. So you are the co-founder and executive editor of the Boardman Review. And when I say we've had your partner here, your brother, Nick, you guys started this together.
That's right. Yeah, we started together. I always give Nick credit for the idea because when we were living in, at the time we were living in Los Angeles, and I think he especially was missing home, missing Michigan, and he started to think about how to kind of like how to talk about this area, how to tell stories from here, and he came up with the idea for the Boardman Review and started pitching me, different styles and everything like that, and yeah, we came together eventually in 2017. We launched. So yeah,
and it's been going strong ever since.
Yeah, it's been good. We missed one issue, pandemic related. But so far so good.
I'll allow it. That's okay.
that gets a hall pass. Yeah,
I'll allow it. You mentioned trying to figure out a way to talk about this area. When you don't live here and you're trying to capture the magic that is Northern Michigan, I totally get that sentiment because, people will go, yeah, okay, well, what's so special about it? And you're like, but you just have to know. You have to be there, right?
That's it, yeah. And we kind of wanted, it was a struggle to talk about, or a struggle to come up with the right words.
Right.
So we very literally were just like, let's let other people give it a shot. But really just telling the stories of what people are up to kind of gives you a better sense of what the area is all about. So
I'm holding the newest edition here. It's beautiful. This is a sneak peek, my friend. So when you're listening to this right now, the launch party is actually happening on Tuesday, September 30th. So this is in my hot little hands. No one else has seen it, right?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Wow. That's so exciting right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of stories in here. And Beth, we have a couple of things to talk about with you too.
I know. We kind of have like an outdoor theme today, which I feel like is very appropriate because I love the Boardman Review. First of all, Chris and Nick are good friends. But also, all three of us are on the Leelanau Collective, which is kind of the next generation council of the Leelanau Conservancy.
Ooh.
This is a very big week for the Conservancy. And then also next week is the Michigan Outdoor Summit, which I'll be attending, which has a lot of presentations about the outdoors. The Boardman Review is a partner. Their launch party is kind of part of that whole 2-day event. So there's just a lot of synergy going on this week.
Ooh, synergy. Love that word. And you know what? You teed it up so perfectly. You are so good at segues, my friend. We're going to talk a little bit about the Michigan Outdoor Summit and that connection to the first story that we're going to feature today. Ian Solomon wrote this. Tell us about what you can find when you pick up a copy of Boardman Review.
Yeah, so for every fall issue over the past few years, we've had this great collaboration with the Michigan Outdoor Summit. Mm-hmm. And essentially on our end, the collaboration includes we get a couple of stories from people who are presenting at the summit. Mm-hmm. And also our release party for the fall issue kind of serves as the opening night party for the summit. So, and it's great because we get these stories that we wouldn't necessarily have access to maybe, or wouldn't know of, or like in the case of Ian John Solomon's piece, it's more Detroit based, which we'd love to have. We'd love to spread it out a little bit and talk about places that people who live in northern Michigan go to frequently. It doesn't always have to be about everything in that's taking place up here,
Right.
but places in Michigan or concepts in Michigan that matter to us up here. And I mean, Ian's piece, I don't know if I can overstate this.
How beautiful this is.
Yeah, and it really hits every mark that we want to hit for our pieces and our issue. First of all, he's an artist first, I would say. He calls himself an artist journalist. His artwork or his photography, he's kind of he's in that photojournalist world. And you know, if you look at his photography, you can see that, and a little bit of street photography mixed in there. So there's that piece of what he does. And he's also he's been a part of Great Lakes Now. He's been an Emmy nominated, an Emmy award winning, I should say. Yes, Emmy award winning host of a segment they do called Ian Outside, which is great. So he just has he does all kinds of fun stuff, and he's the keynote speaker at the along with Dan Wanshura from IPR at the Michigan Outdoor Summit. So just getting him for us is kind of a big deal. It's kind of cool. And the piece that he did for us is really interesting because there's a lot that goes into it, but mainly the concept is how we think about the city of Detroit. And, you know, the worldview of Detroit is pretty narrow. You get that's where cars come from, right? And you get, it's had some tricky times with crime and et cetera. And then maybe if you go into the second layer, it's Motown music and stuff like that. But what he talks about, a lot of it is the culture, right? But even that, when you go to Detroit, if you've been there, it's pretty easy to see. It's not, they don't hide the culture there.
No. Yeah.
You don't have to
peel back a layer.
You don't have to peel back a layer. It's there. It's pretty in front of you.
Yeah.
So that's key. You know, he talks about, you know, specifically the Black culture there, and you don't have to dig through to see that. So that's very important to that, you know, a very important piece of what he talks about. But what I find the most interesting is this aspect of viewing Detroit from a land perspective.
Oh.
And I wanted to find a quick quote from him here because it really kind of just a quick way of saying this.
Sure.
But almost never is the contemporary story of Detroit presented as a story of land. And I think that's super, super interesting because it's not. And you don't really think of that. Sure, around here we were we get that the Great Lakes are nearby. So, you know, as he says, that 43 trillion gallons of fresh water go by essentially Detroit, right? But he also talks about the massive salt deposits that are underneath the city, which is interesting. And just as an urban area that is trying to be more outdoor centric, they kind of already are. And that's the point that he's sort of making is that he even sort of tries to compare it to Denver a little bit, in essentially saying, so what does Denver have that's that incredibly different than what Detroit is trying to do? Which at first that might sound a little bit crazy, but he talks about how the city has over 300 parks covering 5,000 acres.
Wow. That's
pretty impressive.
This is so interesting to me because I've never thought about Detroit when it comes to just a land mass, right?
Exactly.
It's all the culture and the things you can do it's so dynamic.
Yeah.
But it really is such a special, so many beautiful parks.
Yeah. And he says, Belle Isle, for example, is the second most visited state park in the country.
Wow.
Behind Niagara Falls.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Belle Isle is continuing to, I don't know if you've been there recently, but, it's a really interesting spot because it's this classic, it kind of is a microcosm for the whole city because parts of it are still boarded up, essentially, but other parts of it are beautiful.
Yeah.
And, it's just it's a really cool spot.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of what a lot of his essay is about, is that sort of the way that we're viewing Detroit and how, we should tilt the way that we're thinking and keep fostering this concept of Detroit should be thought of more of, from the land perspective.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's already there. And he talks about how it's a hub for outdoor recreation too, because of being able to come up here, flying to Detroit and come up here and accessing Great Lakes in a short amount of time. So
I mean, that's so interesting, just to think of it from that perspective too. And as you're talking about like the worldview lens of Detroit and the different layers there has been a resurgent, or recently, I think, a new lens of the comeback city, right?
Yeah.
And I've always wondered what people who are living in and from Detroit think about this idea that they're a comeback city when they're like, hey, babe, we've always been here. We're not coming back.
We never
we're
left.
here, I always wonder that.
I'm sure it's a bit of like, there's a bit of pride there that's that they're coming back, so to speak. But there's also, like you said, it's probably both.
Yeah.
They're a little bit like, no, we actually didn't really go anywhere, pump the brakes on comeback stuff. But
it's like when Prince told Justin, Timberlake that sexy never left. Remember that?
I think it's pretty much the same. Yeah.
So the launch party on Tuesday is at the Social District on 8th Street, right? What time is it at?
It starts at 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so again, that tie in to the Michigan Outdoor Summit. And then I'll just let folks know if they want to check out the summit. And if you have any connection to the outdoors, whether you just like the outdoors or you're in any kind of nonprofit or job that at all connects to outdoor tourism, if you go to michiganoutdoor.org, there are still tickets available. And Wednesday's kind of the main conference day. It'll be at Timber Ridge. There's all kinds of sessions with different keynote speakers from around the state, recreation. The tribe is involved. It's just, I've gone for a couple of years. It's a great conference.
It looks fantastic. So this is just anyone who loves the outdoors, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Boardman Review Party is free. I think there's RSVPs on the Michigan Outdoor website that's encouraged, just so they can get a sense of numbers. And then Wednesday is a ticketed conference.
Okay.
If folks want to check that out.
Very cool. So michiganoutdoor.org for that one. We're going to kind of move into the next story here that is featured in the Boardman Review. And we're going to talk a little bit about, Green Door Folk School. So tell us a little about that one.
Yeah, so the Green Door Folk School, they're very new. They started classes in March of this year.
Yeah.
And initially they were sort of traveling around to different spaces, but they just recently got a more permanent space in Cedar at J2 Farms. And basically what they do is they have these incredible classes that try to tie you to the land and to your hands, lots of working with your hands and getting together and kind of learning a trade almost, or learning a skill. And what's cool is the writer who's part of Green Door Folk School, Lauren Dahl, she talked about the roots of Green Door Folk School and the roots of folk schools in general.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helps explain what it is. So I'll just read a quick little passage here. She wrote, "The movement began," referring to the folk school movement, "the movement began in Denmark at a time when education had become a domain of the church and was no longer taught in the local language. As industrialization spread and culture became concentrated in the hands of the elite, everyday people found themselves disconnected from the land and from one another." So it's kind of both general and specific.
Yeah.
There's very specific types of classes that they're teaching, but the general idea is coming together, learning something together, and connecting.
Yeah, and connecting passions that are, maybe new to you or maybe old, that you haven't picked up in a while. I'm looking at greendoorfolkschool.com right now. And believe it or not, I have been wanting to learn how to carve a bench. It is very true.
What a coincidence.
There you go. Yeah.
There is a class where hands-on class to learn how to hand carve a wooden bench on October 18th at 10:30. And I'm just that sounds perfect, because it's not just that activity, it's a skill that you will be able to continue. And she's right. where else have we been able to learn these things?
Right.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, no. I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, I'm so excited just getting my copy today. I'm so excited to read about this. We've done a couple of stories on the Leland Ticker this year about Green Door, and to, your point, Christal, and I'm sure what they share with their ethos, just everything on this website, from herbal remedies to knitting to botanical watercolors. It's like a pretty wide range of skill sets and crafts that they like to hold classes on.
and I do have to do a shout out for Christina Nichols, who is, definitely a friend of the show. And she is one of those people who bought a loom and just decided to learn how to weave and become a textile master. Like, she is just an incredible person who knows how to do these beautiful, incredible things. But she picked that up pretty late in life, really.
Yeah, it's never too late to learn something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, who knows? You guys, maybe this time next year, I'm going to just be a bench maker.
Yep.
And I will call it Benchmark. Right?
Kinda have
It's pretty good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
And I thought, I want to touch on another thing that in the Boardman review, and I think, Chris, when we were talking before the show, you kind of mentioned this idea of crazy ideas.
Yeah.
So this, the Green Door Folk School kind of being one that's just sort of coming into fruition and enjoying its new success. And then you also have a feature this month about the National Writer Series, which, similarly started as a kind of what if, and then is now a big success. So maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I actually didn't realize that we had that sort of combo until started looking at it deeper. But yeah, essentially, the origin story, if you will, of National Writer Series is this concept I wonder if people will come to such a thing, an author talk. And they did. And another thing about another parallel is that they started doing this Raising Writers class series, which is just another thing that's sort of filling in gaps of what's available to kids to learn, and giving access to writing classes that kind of span the whole spectrum of styles of writing. So it's very similar in a lot of ways to the folk school concept. It's just offering these classes and making things more accessible that might not seem as accessible to people.
I mean, you're both writers, obviously, and I always wonder that too about when how you kind of found your way into writing, because obviously we all had to write essays and themes and things like that when we were kids, and in that. In that sort of space. But Beth, I know that you're not only a journalist, you're a creative writer as well. So is there, when you're thinking about finding your way into writing similar to the National Writer Series, do you have an outlet for something like that where you can, your writing is your work, but you also are able to go, okay, how else can I, can I hone my creative writing skills?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do a lot of that for myself, but also then for organizations that I care about in the community. It kind of is volunteer work. I actually worked for the National Writer Series for the first couple years as a publicist and helping to book authors and their tours. And so I got to see the early stages of the organization and have seen how it's grown into this just, well-oiled machine with great authors coming in, sometimes a couple times a month. But yeah, to your point, I mean, I think what's great about having that organization and other writing organizations in town that the Writer Series often partners with is it does provide those outlets, and it's funneling so much money into scholarships for kids and giving them creative opportunities. And usually, I'm sure Chris can relate, if you're a writer, you tend to be often a jack of all trades. You might have different communication jobs at different points in your life, or you might work in filmmaking for a bit, and then I've worked in corporate communications. But writing is at the heart of it all, and it's such a valuable skill, not just creatively, but for all kinds of professions.
Right.
So teaching kids those skills, which the Writer Series really does, is fantastic, I think.
Yeah, especially with that Raising Writers too.
Yeah.
So, opening up that world into the different kinds of writing that you can do. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think especially I'm lucky enough to teach a couple of classes with them, and I teach middle schoolers.
Oh.
They come, but they're just getting into writing a little bit longer form, and it gives them an opportunity to write things that come from kind of more organically from what they're thinking on an everyday basis, rather than an assignment.
Yeah.
So, and it gives them a chance to kind of explore different different types of writing, screenwriting or creative nonfiction or things that maybe they're not working on in school, at least at this point, and just kind of mess around with it.
What piqued your interest in writing? I mean, I'm asking this because I remember writing my first story in second grade, and it was terrible. But Mrs. Stone liked it. But I remember being encouraged by a teacher to, say, hey, you've got something special here. Maybe you should keep it going. Did you kind of find your way into that the same sort of way, or was, writing really a part of your, maybe your household or your family?
Yeah, it was definitely, I think, daydreaming was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I definitely had some great encouragement from teachers and my family too.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of it was just the daydreaming,
right,
and the staring out the window a little bit, and ideas that would just pop in my head, and finding a place for that. It was really just that simple, just writing. I wouldn't say that I was in, middle school or high school even writing, I didn't have a notebook going and anything like that. But when I was given an assignment or something that gave me some structure, I loved it. So these kids that I'm teaching, they have their notebooks and ideas and stacks of their own comic book series and stuff, which is so cool. But I wasn't that. I wasn't putting it out there until later on. And then I kind of was making up for lost time and just was writing all kinds of nonsense. So
yeah, I love that. How about you? I mean, was there a moment in your life, Beth, where you were just like, all right, this is what I'm meant to do?
Well, I thought I was going to be a marine biologist for most of my childhood until I learned that there's a lot of math and science.
Mine was archaeologist.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't.
Free Willy, Indiana Jones. Yeah, it happened. But actually, in first grade, I won a citywide author contest for a book I wrote called Willy the Snail. And it was about Willy learning friendship and not being selfish. Wow. And I remember that was it was a very pivotal thing because I got taken out of a classroom. I got to go to a special luncheon. They hardbound my little book for me. Wow. And I was like, oh, I'm an author.
First grade?
First grade.
Wow.
So I sat on that feeling for a while. And then in high school, I saw The President's Men. And I was like, oh, that's what I want to be a journalist. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So shout out to Robert Redford for that.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Absolutely amazing. Well, speaking of being a journalist, you're going to give us some updates on, maybe the Sugar Loaf fundraising and some downtown projects. But first, we are having a special word today for Pancake Boy Productions. And every week when we sit down to bring you Currently, there's a lot happening behind the scenes. Recording, editing, mixing, even making sure the podcast lands in your feed on time. And all of that happens thanks to Pancake Boy Productions. They are the team that produces Currently, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're running a business, building a professional or personal brand, or you just have a story to tell, Pancake Boy Productions makes podcasting easy. They take care of the technical details, the recording, the editing, the publishing, so you can focus on your message. And here's the best part. Pancake Boy is based right here in Traverse City. They've helped local nonprofits, businesses, and creators launch podcasts that sound professional and connect with the right audience. So if you've ever thought, I should start a podcast, but I don't know where to begin, start with Pancake Boy Productions. Learn more at pancakeboy.biz. And welcome back to Currently. Beth, I am super excited. I know, you are working even when you're not supposed to be working. I was actually having a conversation about you. I don't know if maybe your ears were burning a little bit earlier today. I was just like, this girl, even when you're not working, you are on top of a story. And you had, a quasi vacation for a few days. Yeah. And here we are going into Currently. You're like, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about because you were still working. So we're gonna start things off by talking about the Sugar Loaf fundraising, because I think that's something that we announced here on Currently, and the entire Northern Michigan region has just been a buzz about this. So what is happening there?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I wanted to mention this today is because of, Chris and I both being involved with the Conservancy and the Leelanau Collective. This week is Fall for Leelanau, which is our annual event. There's daily things happening to kind of celebrate the outdoors and get people outdoors and volunteering. Our big kind of centerpiece event, which the Leelanau Collective organizes, is called Harvest, and it's happening tonight when the show airs, Friday night, from 5 to 7 at the DeYoung property, if you know the DeYoung farm out on Cherry Bend Road. It's completely free to attend. It's super family friendly. There's going to be food and drinks. There's a local artist showcase, so you can walk around the DeYoung house and see some cool art. There'll be music by Sierra Cassidy of I Am James. There's a mobile children's museum from the Great Lakes Children's Museum. And then I myself will be moderating a panel at the event talking about kind of how recreation and conservation work together.
Oh, wow.
And Sugar Loaf will be a big part of that discussion. So that's why I wanted to highlight it this week. And also because in the Leelanau Ticker last week, now because I volunteer for the Conservancy, I don't write for the Leelanau Ticker, I don't write about the Conservancy, but my colleagues did. And they did a story last week, just kind of doing an update on the Sugar Loaf property. Mm-hmm. So as of, last week, they had mentioned they were getting very close to their goal. I know more donations have been coming in, so I would say for folks to stay tuned because it seems like we're moving in a very exciting direction. Tom Nelson the executive director shared with the Ticker last week that they're in a really strong position. So they had this $8 million fundraising goal that they needed to hit. And that was the property is being donated, completely gifted by an anonymous donor to the Conservancy, but this $8 million that the Conservancy raising is to be able to implement the plan for the property to get it ready to have the public come. So I would say it seems like they're very, very close to hitting that goal. So pay attention to that, and we'll be talking about it tonight. If folks want to just hear more about when you get a big property like Sugar Loaf, how do you figure out where the trails go and what plants you need to remove and which ones you need to protect? And how do you make sure the trails don't impact the natural environment? These are all things we'll be talking about today.
And if you're, for someone like me, where do you put the benches?
Totally.
Because, you need to rest on those trails.
We've got some great Conservancy staff that'll be on that panel. We have folks from Patagonia, folks from Heart of the Lake. So that'll be a really good discussion. And again, it's all free and family friendly tonight, 5 to 7.
Very exciting. And just a little bit, last week there was less than $1 million to go in that fundraising.
Yeah. And like I said, I would stay tuned because I've been hearing some donations are coming in. So it's good momentum. And I would encourage folks, if you love Sugar Loaf or want to get involved, you can still donate. Even if they hit their fundraising goal, there's still so much work to be done on the property. And that's really going to be the next phase. It's not quite open to the public yet, but the goal is to start doing that work once the property is fully secured. So hopefully in 2026, they're starting to really get some changes happening to the property.
Very exciting. Well, good luck with the moderating. Look at you. And
like I said,
it'll be fun. You're always working with everything. We have another story that we want to share, and this was your story from this week, Beth, about the downtown projects update. So tell us about Rotary Square, Farmers Market Pavilion, Lot O.
Yeah. Well, I thought and I'll just do a really quick synopsis of this as we wrap up the show here, and folks can check out more online. But, 2 of these projects are really focused on the outdoors. So I thought they were good to kind of tie into our theme of the show today. And this is a story from last week. So Rotary Square and the Farmers Market, I just want to let folks know because we've talked about these projects on the show before, and there's really some momentum. They're moving forward. So Rotary Square, they have had this whole months-long engagement process. There's been over 1,000 points of feedback collected from surveys, pop-up open houses, input sessions. They now have a final design. So they, last week at the DDA meeting on Friday, Progressive Companies, which is the consulting firm that's working with the DDA, sort of hinted at some of the things that are to come. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like the public really valued some things, and they had different design options over time. Mm-hmm. But some of the things they really wanted to see in Rotary Square were a small stage area. Mm-hmm. So we could have maybe, acoustic music in the park or whatever, or people could do speeches or whatever, a shade structure, the use of natural materials. There seemed to be a preference for a design in the park that was more organic and flowing rather than kind of regimented, like a more hardened civic square. It'd be more of a natural park. There was a lot of support for having a pedestrian flow between Rotary Square and Fish Pass to the south, so that maybe that alley would either be closed off or reconfigured so people could go check out Fish Pass when it opens and then hang out in the square. So at the DDA's October meeting, if folks want to see the final design, we again hinted at some of the elements, but I haven't even seen it yet. Oh. It will be presented at the October 17th board meeting. And then there will be some kind of November open house to the public to really go through the plan with the idea that then the DDA wants to start implementing that project.
That's huge.
It's been a long time in the works.
I mean, of those 1,000 points, I think I had about 999. I had some opinions.
So this is really your plan for the park.
It's really just Christal's Rotary Park. No, but yeah, both options that they sort of settled on before that people were kind of looking at were good. But how wonderful that the community had such input,
I think people were really passionate. I mean, it's a big, prominent park right in the heart of downtown Traverse City, at the corner of State and Union there. And with Fish Pass, with this complete reconstruction of the Union Street Dam, there's just a lot that's going to be happening in that part of downtown.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then the other one is the Farmers Market Pavilion. This is just like Rotary Square, a project that has been talked about for years and years and years in downtown Traverse City. And actually seems like it might be getting ready to move forward.
Really?
So they are, the DDA board last Friday approved some funding for the final design work for the Farmers Market Pavilion. The idea is, ideally, if everything proceeds and the project comes in under budget, right now it's estimated about $2.5 million. The DDA has $2.8 million set aside for it.
Okay.
So it's under budget right now. But we're talking about in Lot B, which is that parking lot where the Sarah Hardy Market happens right now along Grandview Parkway. The city and DDA would work together next spring to redesign the parking lot. They have to do that already. The city was already planning to do that. They have to pull some of their parking a little bit back from Grandview Parkway because they're intruding on the state's right away right now. So they have to pull a little of the parking back, and they also have to do some stormwater infrastructure in that parking lot. We've got the Boardman River right there.
Yeah.
We need to take a little bit better care of that. So while the city was already going to be tearing up the parking lot, they didn't want to do that twice. They thought it would be a good time to put the Farmers Market Pavilion. And this is something that vendors have been asking for forever. We're talking about, in sort of the model is the Grand Rapids Market.
Oh, yeah.
A huge, essentially 300-foot long steel and wood pavilion, 10-foot wide walkways underneath, so that the farmers, when you go on Wednesday and Saturday during the farmers market season, it's protected. I have been there many times when it is raining or hailing, and if you've got all your fresh produce out and it's easy to bruise, I mean, those folks have had to deal with some horrible weather days. So that'll protect everyone. Made from sustainable materials, the possibility to have solar panels on the roof in the future. And then that parking lot will really be kind of completely redesigned. And then next year, the construction could start in the spring.
That's very cool. They've been working on this for many years,
So
right?
long, yes. They had a design in 2016.
Yeah.
And then that kind of got put on hold. And so this work this year has been to update that design in concert with the city's parking lot reconstruction and then do them together.
Wow.
Tandem.
Well, thank you for doing that hard work of putting these stories together, Beth. I appreciate that. Before we go, we always end the show with something that we're looking forward to, and we all have lots to look forward to. Chris, what is going on with you?
This is a busy time of year around here. I was just saying it that I would, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think it's the busiest time of year for locals. The events, there's a lot of should go to events, there's a lot of things that we feel like we should go to. The nonprofits are putting out their annual events. And anyway, there's a lot going on.
That's true.
So, but this weekend, Leona Uncaged is a good example of just like a fun event to hit up in Northport. There's something like, 7 stages, 34 acts of music and dance and stuff like that.
It's so fun.
They close down the town and, it's great.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. I got to go up there anyway to help my parents with the dock.
Okay.
So
Another classic fall activity.
Oh, that
I got to bring Nick and I got to bring the dock in with the parents, and then we're going to go to Uncaged. So
it's undocked and uncaged.
Exactly.
There you go.
That's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So you're working on that, and how about you, Beth?
Well, I completely agree with what Chris is saying. I feel like September, October for locals is crazy. And it's also like our local summer, tourists have kind of gone. And so we're trying to get to the beach and still enjoy the sun. And then there's all these events happening. But 2 examples of what we have coming up is one on Saturday's up, North Pride March. So Saturday is a whole, there's things happening all this week for North Pride. I'm actually going to a comedy show at the Opera House tonight, but Saturday is the main march. You gather F&M around noon. They'll be marching through downtown Traverse City, and then there's activities happening in the open space all day. There's a nonprofit fair. There's a drag show, silent disco at night. So I'm a huge fan of North Pride and all the work they do in the community. And then the other thing I want to plug for the ticker is We have our recess event, which we've talked about in the show, which is kind of like the Tickers happy hour to get together with the community. And that is going to be on Wednesday at 5:00 in the building, because it's one of our local banks, but sometimes people don't know the building. It's where the Town Plaza is.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be outside. There's going to be great food from Town Plaza.
Oh, wow.
Bird, Boss Wine. So
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
So that's next Wednesday.
Yeah.
So next week is already filling up for me. Let me just tell you. First things first, I am celebrating this weekend my launch of Halloween because I'm obsessed with Halloween. It's a thing that I do. And so we're going to be starting the very slow progressive movement toward building the Halloween outdoor scene that I build everywhere. So my husband's very excited about that. Very, very excited. And then, of course, I'm really excited about that launch party for the Boardman review. So that's happening on Tuesday the 30th. Super excited about that. There's just something really beautiful about this, about what you do. And thank you for bringing beauty back to print, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's very lovely.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you. And thank you so much for being here with us today. And Beth, as always, thank you so much for being with us. Another great show. Yes, I think that was show number 34.
Oh, man.
Look at us. We're 30-something. We're growing up. I'm coming into my own.
Mid-30s.
Be sure to subscribe to the show on all platforms at crystalfrost.com. Follow us on social media and subscribe to Currently with Christal Frost wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the full show on YouTube and on Facebook. Currently is a Compass local podcast. It's produced by Pancake Boy Productions. Big thanks to our lead supporter, West Shore Bank. We'll see you next week on Currently.